Hi guys, and welcome back to the Watch Lobby, where we'll talk about anything and everything watch related. Over the next few videos, we'll be taking a closer look at the watches that are currently in my collection. To see the pieces in my collection as of late 2020, feel free to check out my first ever YouTube video where I shared my state of collection. In the last couple of videos, we took a deep dive into the Rolex Explorer 2 and two different Seiko monsters. I'll link those videos in the description down below. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. It would definitely be appreciated. In today's video, we'll take a closer look at the Tudor Black Bay GMT, a piece that on paper really packs a punch. We'll find out today how it actually stacks up to the specs and what it's been like living with for the past year and a half. So let's get on with the review of the Tudor Black Bay GMT. A piece that when launched in 2018 created a lot of noise amongst collectors, myself included. Known as the alternative to the Rolex GMT Master 2 Pepsi, this one piqued my interest. At the time, Tudor launched their new in-house movement, the Caliber MT5652. A brilliant move by Tudor, and to package it in an overall great looking piece for a reasonable price at that. Tudor has been making an in-house Caliber since 2015, but in 2018, with the introduction of the MT5652, they introduced a true GMT movement to their arsenal. By true GMT, I mean where the hour hand is able to be set independently to the GMT or 24-hour hand, also sometimes known as the home hand. To set the time on the Black Bay GMT, on the furthest pulled out position of the crown, where the second hand also hacks, I set the GMT or home hand to the local time in AM or PM using the 24-hour bezel as a reference point. Here we see the time being set to 9 AM. While travelling, when we can get back to that is, you'll have the ability to pull the crown out to the first location and independently set the hour hand without even hacking the movement. To cycle through the date, like all other true GMTs, you lose the quick set date function. Setting the date is now done by spinning the hour hand around the dial 24 hours. What is great, however, is you have the ability to cycle through the date both forwards and backwards. All sounds amazing and having everyone rush out to get their hands on the Black Bay GMT. But before you take off to your nearest Tudor dealer, slow down there for a second. Unfortunately, in the early iterations of the MT5652, there was a large failure rate with the automatic date change at midnight, where the date would often skip a date, or, as some users have reported, the date being stuck mid-change. 2 years into production of the MT5652, this has been well documented on many online forums. 18 months into ownership, I am lucky to say that I have yet to experience the date change issue, and hopefully it stays that way. In a Black Bay GMT owners group that I'm a member of, it was reported that from a sample group of 15 owners, 7 of those owners reported they had experienced the issue at least once. The kicker here is that of those 7 that reported they had been affected by the issue, 5 of those had been impacted more than once, even after sending the watch away for repair by Tudor. Before we move on, just a quick shout out to Jumping Jalapeno on Instagram who collected all the data. His Instagram handle is on screen now, so feel free to head over and check out his page. Thanks a lot for the data, mate. If you want further information on the date change issue, Jumping Jalapeno has written an article all about it, which I'll link in the description below. Let's park the movement issue for the time being and move on to the case. I personally don't mind the case dimensions, which come in at a 41mm case diameter, 50mm lug to lug, and 15mm thick, including the top hat crystal. I feel with these dimensions, I can wear the Black Bay GMT without it appearing overly large on my roughly 7-inch wrist. The case is well done, with a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces, and is finished off nicely with a polished, chamfered top edge of the case. If we take a look at the side of the case, we'll see a signed screw-down crown featuring the Tudor Rose insignia. The crown provides the GMT with 200 meters of water resistance, which really adds to the versatility of the Black Bay. While we're here, let's take a closer look at the bezel and dial. Starting with the bezel, The bezel is a bi-directional 48 click bezel with a 24-hour aluminium bezel insert. The 48 click bezel allows the wearer to track time zones in 30-minute durations for those locations that aren't full hours time difference. To use the bezel itself has a little trick. Unlike most rotating bezels, the GMT bezel requires a bit of downward pressure to be able to rotate. As for the bezel insert, a 24-hour aluminium insert helps the wearer track the desired time zone, with the traditional blue and red of the insert indicating night and day. The blue is a darker washed out navy and the red somewhat follows suit. Both colour choices are great, as more vibrant colours would have made the Black Bay stand out so much more. From here, we can take a look at the dial. A matte black dial with applied round hour indices throughout, except for the 6 and 9 that get rectangular markers, and 12 getting a triangle marker with a date window at 3. Following on from Tudors of yesteryear, the Tudor opted for a polished snowflake hand design for the hour and seconds hand, while still keeping the snowflake design for the 24-hour hand, however painted red, and going for a sword design for the minute hand. What Tudor has done really well is ensure the GMT or 24-hour hand extends to the furthest extremity of the dial, and the minute hand extends perfectly to the minute markers outlining the dial. When stacked, each hand is able to be identified, which is a great touch. All in all, I'm impressed with the overall appearance of the Black Bay GMT. Let's move on to the bracelet. I personally believe Tudor dropped the ball here, lacking some minor refinements that would have really elevated the wearability of the Black Bay. The bracelet itself isn't bad at all. There is absolutely no movement in the solid end links. The solid 3-piece brushed oyster style bracelet is great. However, I'm still not sold on the faux rivets flanking the bracelet, albeit a design element dipping its hat to the past. Where my real gripe comes in though is the clasp. As you may have noticed from my other videos, I'm a sucker for a great clasp. This is where Tudor really drops the ball. After owning the Black Bay for over 18 months, I'm still yet to find a comfortable position with it. I'm in between micro adjustments, so I need to wear the GMT looser than I'd normally like. But oh, how I wish that was the only issue. The clasp itself lacks any type of trigger system to release the clasp once the flip lock is open, instead having to use your thumb under the overhang to pull the clasp open. It would have been the perfect opportunity to lever the latch as seen on many Rolexes. This would have made it a lot easier to open the clasp without thinking you're about to pull your nail off every time. Like an infomercial though, but wait, there's more. This might have to be one of the most uncomfortable clasps I've ever experienced. The clasp in its entirety is just too large with too many squared off edges. Every time I wear the Black Bay, I'm left with a nice little reminder on the underside of my wrist where the clasp had been digging in. Now I assume this might not be an issue for everyone, especially if you're able to get a good fit on the bracelet. For those of us that are in between bracelet sizes, it just isn't comfortable at all. Tudor's saving grace is, however, the fact that the Black Bay is an absolute strap monster. Paired up with different straps, however, the comfort and wearability of this piece gets elevated for me. Considering the Black Bay is available for purchase on leather or NATO, I feel those of you that have either of those options might not have ever experienced the discomfort mentioned. In conclusion, should you get a Black Bay GMT? If you're not interested in the bracelet option, then my answer is absolutely yes. However, if you're only interested in wearing the Black Bay on a bracelet, I'd highly recommend figuring it out if you can get a good fit on the bracelet before making the purchase. Personally, when I decided I wanted the Black Bay GMT, there were not many places I could actually go and try one on. Fast forward to when I got the call to pick up my GMT. I was just so excited to have one, everything was forgotten. During the honeymoon period of ownership, I'd almost be making any excuse as to why it was so uncomfortable. However, once the honeymoon period was over and I was able to pull the covers off my eyes, I feel that Tudor really cut corners on the clasp. Having always wanted a Rolex GMT Master 2, but not being able to land one yet, the Black Bay for me has become more of a placeholder in my collection. We'll see what the future holds for the Black Bay GMT in my collection, but until then, I haven't made any decisions on if this is a keeper or a mover. Once again guys, thank you for sticking through to the end. If you haven't already done so, it would be greatly appreciated if you could like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, thank you for checking in and stay safe.